Firstly, Mel, team news ahead of the weekend game, please. Yeah, how's it looking?
Yeah, everyone's come back in relatively good shape off the back of the international window. We actually had a lot of successful campaigns for the group. Obviously, I'm sure everyone will be well aware that Nicky Everard came off with an injury late in the Belgium-Netherlands game, which is still being joint assessed between ourselves and Chelsea at the time.
Yeah, so she's touch and go at the moment. Yeah,
Yeah, she's still being assessed right now.
the and you've had a couple of breaks in quite short time with the internationals. A lot of them are going and getting even more experience. Yeah, some senior players playing for their country. Are you finding it's helping in a sense, or is it hindering that they're away? How are you finding the balance of this? Because it's a much more internationally based squad probably than the Albion have ever had in some time or in the club's history now.
To be fair, it was quite similar numbers. Last year when I came in, I think I came in the very last international break before the end of the season, and very similar numbers. Obviously, a completely different makeup of the squad this year. I think we're really excited about the likes of Maisie Simons getting her first call in back to the 23s since a long period away with injury. There's a lot of positives about that. There's been players playing well in the international scale and getting a lot of minutes and exposure. So there's always experiences that they can bring back to us. And the ones that we have in house are still ones on standby with the likes of Pauline Bremer and Emma Kohlberg for their respective national teams. But ultimately, we just really enjoy the time that we get with a smaller group with the ones that we have in house as well. And I think credit to the group over the previous two international breaks when they've come back in preparation. It's a really short turnaround to the game for Leicester on the weekend, and they've been absolutely brilliant with their focus levels and professionalism to take on information and prepare so that they're ready.
Yeah. How hard was it though to have no action domestically for a couple of weeks after the nature of the defeat and the scoreline at Liverpool? You probably want to get straight back on the horse, didn't you? And you couldn't.
Yeah, I think that game's pretty far gone now. We reflected from it, and ultimately, all of this week has been about preparing players individually in line with their IDPs, having a bit of fun and enjoyment, and making sure that we are ready for when the remainder of the group return today.
It was a disappointing result, but the block itself was incredibly successful. You know, the wins over West Ham and Man City, drawing with United, a tight game with Arsenal until very near the end. So, presumably, you go into this final couple of games before the winter break mentally very strong, do you think?
When we look at the block as a whole, in terms of the previous one, block two, yeah, if you take 5 matches and you say we've got 3 results again out of 5 with 4 really strong performances against the quality of opposition that we had, like, of course you're going to come out and be quite happy with that, but we know that the Liverpool performance was by far our best, far from our best performance, and we're very clear about the areas that we needed to be better in, and the things that we can manage differently coming off the back of the end of 5 games in a 3-match week. I think there's things that we can prepare in different ways to position ourselves better when we go on the road and play tough opposition. And credit to Liverpool. Look, they're having a really fantastic start to the season, and been a difficult team for anybody to play. So yeah, I think, like I said, that block's in the past, and our full focus is on the Leicester game, and then after that, preparing for Villa in 2 games that we know will be incredibly competitive, and especially with Leicester in the way that they've been playing against teams, it will be a physical battle. There'll be pressure coming. I think they lead the league in pressure per defensive actions, and so we know the areas that we'll have to be really sharp in come Sunday.
Going to say they obviously start the season with absolutely flyer, and they're playing a very strong form of football, aren't they? It's going to be a tough challenge, but a really exciting challenge to take them on.
Yeah, we've had some similar results in terms of the teams that we've faced and the results that we've had, and draws against United and wins against Everton, and they've obviously played Bristol. We've not played them yet, so I think there's been some similarities, while probably some two contrasting styles of play, but ultimately we know the challenge that we face, and we're looking forward to relishing that come Sunday.
finally for me, those two games you mentioned, Leicester and Aston Villa, they'll shape how you'll look at this sort of first half of the campaign heading into the new year, won't they? You know, there's one just above you, one just below you. It's a chance to get a bit more movement before you have that break.
I don't think they'll shape how we look at the first half of season. We'll look at that holistically. Of course, when you play teams right around you, as you say, in the table, it's always going to be tightly contested matches, and those points prove to be very pivotal when it comes to defining out the table. But I think there's been so much that we've learned about ourselves through playing the top half, the top four, and everybody else, and ultimately where we have to really roll our sleeves up and be more competitive in certain areas coming into the new year.